Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 15 of Learning Outside the Lines with Kyle and Glenn, or Glenn and Kyle. It doesn't matter. Glenn, how are you doing?
Doing well, man. How are you?
Living the dream every day, all day in our post-apocalyptic world we found ourselves in, apparently.
Yes, it's wonderful.
But that was probably a negative way to put it. It's not that bad.
I mean, even like Cormac McCarthy's great entertainment, right?
Seriously one of my favorite authors of all time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, The Road is a pleasure read all the way through. It just brightens my heart.
He is devastatingly dark, but I love every word he writes. I'm not going to lie.
It's so bad.
Today we've got a special guest with us. It is a University of Georgia student, Morgan Wood, but more importantly, she's a former student of mine, so she's going to tell all my terrible secrets and how horrible of a teacher I was to her, why she was even giving me the time of day. She's muted right now, so she can't say anything back. So she can unmute herself, but she won't do that because she wants to make sure that this goes smoothly, right? All right,
it's already going great.
We're really excited to have Morgan on, though. She's well on her way to finishing her undergrad degree, and we just wanted to bring on the perspective of a college student through all of this. So she'll be joining us in a little bit. But before then, Glenn, what's going on, man? What's your story today?
I just want to shout out to some of the folks that I work with. It's been really interesting navigating all these times right now, as you guys know, and just having this support that we have in the language arts office, it's incredible. I know that's just my little corner of the world, and there's so many other moving pieces, but to have some of the leaders we have in place, it's just phenomenal. They're doing so much work right now to try to make this as easy as possible for teachers in Gwinnett County. And then also just some of the leaders at other schools I've been collaborating with a lot lately.
I will say this. So for me, I've just really enjoyed reconnecting with folks that I don't reconnect with as often. Now that there seems to be this thing we call time, and the time has probably always been there, but the time is a little bit different in this whole landscape.
Yeah.
But me and my wife find ourselves connecting a little bit more with friends who don't live in the States, or we're certainly checking in with people more often. I had a chance to call a friend this morning, kind of in between meetings, that just saying like, "Hey man, how are you doing?" And we're doing about the same, but just to kind of hear one another's voice and kind of check in and see where you're on. And you take for granted, we've had the capability to check in with these people forever, or to do these virtual meetups that some of us are taking advantage of now with friends and family. It just feels good to be doing it, and it makes me feel more grounded. So that's
cool.
Really positive, I would say, recently.
I mean, literally everyone's the same distance away now.
Yeah.
Like there's infinite space between all of us. So when you do that, I guess it makes us everything on a level playing field, whether they live in the state or not. So
I think you just found a poem to write, man.
I think so. Life is poetry.
All right, well, let's get into it. So let's get into the next piece of what we always do, which is our digital teaching hat. Glenn, what do you have for us today?
Well, I'm kind of going to show off some stuff that's going on in my Google Drive right now as far as students go. So in an earlier episode, we talked about the need for front loading and also kind of building some organizational spaces for some students. So just to kind of talk a little bit about some of what Drive can do. And again, this takes a ton of like front loading. But what I've tried to do for my students in their book groups right now is basically make a group folder for every single student. And these different sheets are actually shared with just that one particular group. So it's kind of using Drive to create these spaces where students can collaborate both, asynchronously and then also like collaboratively together. But if a student logs in the middle of the night and works on one of these documents, that's not a problem. But it also gives me a chance to give some feedback. So what I've done is I've actually basically, I've shorthanded it. I'm not giving out grades for a lot of this stuff. But what I wanted to do was use you did it or it's still in progress. I'm trying to avoid hard deadlines right now and just have guidelines. So it's either a check or it's something you need to work on still. And trying to approach everything that way as much as possible. But that way they see that sheet. They know I've looked at their stuff. I can comment on their stuff, kind of their in progress thinking work behind their podcast they're creating. And, I know that I've seen it too. So when I do have to go attach a grade to this, it's going to be a lot easier than having to sort through all these documents too. So it's, just kind of using Drive with a little bit more front loading. And instead of just having files you share with everybody, but just being selective with your book groups. Tons of front loading, but it's going to be super rewarding, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the feedback's good too. And it's learning for learning's sake, right? I think it's going back to that. We'll worry about the grade part later. Let's get you involved in the process of learning something that's going to be a new skill or help you adapt or grow in a way that's meaningful.
Yeah, definitely.
So
that's what we're trying for.
So let's do this. Let's go ahead and get into our next part, which is what's the good word?
Yes. Let's hear it.
So what's the good word is our opportunity to bring on our guests. And again, for some reason, people keep coming on, which is great. We're excited. As I previewed earlier, we're going to have Morgan Wood join us. So Morgan is a UGA undergrad, University of Georgia. She is an English major and she's minoring in sociology. She's in year 2 technically, but she recently told me she's actually going to be graduating in December. So she's well ahead. Yeah. So she's a rock star. I can attest to that. So let's bring Morgan on right now.
That's amazing. That's cool.
Hello.
Hey, Morgan.
All right. I said all those awful things about myself earlier, but one of the reasons I actually reached out to you was because you're one of my favorite stories in all of teaching, just in terms of having someone in my class that I really enjoy teaching who, I don't know, I felt like you got the point of what I was trying to do as an educator, and I haven't had many students that figured that out as quickly as you did.
I know that feeling.
So I appreciate it.
Oh, it was good.
Yeah. So we wanted to bring you on again for the college student experience, so you suddenly, like everybody else, had to go to remote learning. So the first question we really have for you is what has that transition kind of been like for you to go from you were headed to class right in front of your peers, in front of your professors, and now you're trying to do it all online?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing was kind of seeing how the professors took the courses and switched them over to online, because the university did the 2-week suspension, and that was meant to be for professors to have time to kind of rework everything, us to have time to get settled, if we were leaving Athens, figure out money, technology, everything we would need to try and learn. And I feel I didn't really have to do too much reworking of life, but that 2 weeks went really quickly, I feel like. And I have taken online classes. I've taken online English classes because that was another concern. Like, I feel like there are some disciplines that don't do great online. Like for STEM majors, how do you go to lab online? You can't. Like, so that was sort of a worry. I feel like for me, the big change is probably the self-discipline and just getting it together and kind of telling myself, like, okay, we have to sit down, we have to do this, and taking the sort of information that I had been so used to talking about in class, because I feel like with those professors and those classmates, we kind of set the standard for how we went about it in class. And there were a lot of subjects that we had sort of begun like right before spring break, and then suddenly like we're never going to see each other again, which is another thing on its own, I guess, and really weird to think about. But I think broadly speaking, they're doing well. I think we're all doing the best we can. But it is telling, or I guess easy to tell when a course was designed for in-class and when it was designed for online, because like my online courses went great because they were meant to be online. And I think now it's just like the rug got yanked out from under all of us, like so suddenly. And I think more than anything, like I feel like I'm still worried about the content. The professors are still worried about the content, but more than anything, like we're trying to get groceries. We're trying to, like, a lot of them have children they're trying to figure out, help them with school. Like the human component is kind of taking precedent over the academic.
Yeah. I don't know that's a bad thing either. I think one of the weird positives through all of this is we're having to re-tap into humanity and remember, people have lives, they have kids, they have just basic needs, and this whole situation's thrown that into an interesting arena that we've not had to deal with before. But everything you said kind of dovetails into the next question I really wanted to ask too, which is, how have your professors actually dealt with that? You already said some subjects can adjust probably better than others, but in your personal experience, how have your professors adapted well or maybe not so well to remote learning?
Yeah, so I've had courses where the syllabus is pretty vague. It's just like, we'll do whatever we do this week. That was not the case at all for this semester. Any of my classes, it was very like, I was on a Tuesday, Thursday schedule for all my classes. So it was like this day, these chapters, these like down to page numbers, like this is what we're going to talk about. I had one course that actually, that 2-week suspension, they were very clear about the fact that we were not expected to do any sort of like academic work whatsoever. And we weren't asked for that class to do anything during the 2 weeks, but the 2 weeks just got pushed into the last 4 weeks. So if we have 6 weeks of work to do in 4 weeks, and it was just kind of like.
Oh, so they just consolidated it. They just pushed it forward.
Yes.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, so I opened up the first day back and I was like, wait a minute, like these are still all the chapters I should have read when I had 2 whole weeks of like what should have been like active schooling. Like that doesn't seem right. And that same one, that's the only course that I have a TA in, and she had posted, like when everything happened, the professor posted on the syllabus, she was like very specific about when things would be uploaded, when we would like have tests and everything. So our tests are, online, they're open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. You have one try, 1 hour. But on the syllabus, it was down to like PowerPoint on chapter 7 will be uploaded by this day at 9 a.m. And then the next day, there will be another one uploaded by noon. And then the third day, you have a paper due in my inbox at 12:30. But the due dates are still solid and the uploads are not. Like we have a class group chat and there are people texting like, hey, have y'all seen the PowerPoint? It was supposed to be up 2 days ago. It was supposed to be up.
Oh.
I emailed her, she didn't answer me. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I'm doing my best with what I have with that one. A lot of my other professors, I feel like are doing really well. We had one of my classes actually, we're reading the Iliad. It's a class on literature and war. So before spring break, it was like novels, poems, like short stuff. And then we had a couple books before spring break. And then he was like, take your book to the beach and be like the cool academic reading the Iliad on spring break. And back, and we're gonna have like a great like second half of the semester. And I've had this professor before. I took him because like the class seemed interesting, but like I love how he teaches. And the Iliad wasn't like a selling point for me, but I figured I'd just tough it out. And then everything happened and I was like, okay, so now I'm reading the Iliad alone, like on my Kindle, no one to talk to about it, and all he wants like and I'm not, that's not my thing, like that's not my favorite. It's fine, but
I can send you some great videos.
He knew that.
Hey, so I want to encourage you, right? Don't have all this guilt as an English major that you somehow have to love everything you read.
No,
it's not true.
No.
There's plenty of trash literature out there that everybody else says, but this is beautiful and perfect, and why don't you love it? Because I don't, okay? Because I don't.
Pride and Prejudice. Yeah. There's a lot that people love. They just think it's, but yeah. And don't be afraid. Like, just remember, we're not living in a vacuum. Not to get all preachy, but like this stuff, there's been billions of people struggling with the Iliad, so it's all on YouTube. Like, I mean, there's some hilarious videos out there of stuff that can help you get through this stuff. Because if you're not loving it, just find a video where someone talks about it in a ridiculous way, because it's all ridiculous. All ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, I totally interrupted you there, but I just had to chime in. So anyway, continue.
Triggered.
So the beginning of the semester, we had like critical response essays, and they were supposed to be like pretty academic, kind of hone in on a certain thing within the readings, write it and turn it in. So he switched over to a sort of like reading journal format. which I really appreciate because I don't love it. Literally, my reading journals, like I'll do specific notes about like words or phrases, you know, things that I like while I'm reading in bullet points, and then just like a paragraph at the bottom where I turn it in.
Cool.
And I really appreciate it. The first one I was so scared because I literally wrote like I commented on some phrases at the bottom, and I was like, this is like such a bro story. Like this is manly, and like this is very toxic masculinity. I'm not loving it.
Yes.
It reminds me of the men I work with at Lowe's. Like, what am
Are you talking about the Iliad still?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. You're totally right. Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and he was like, I promise that feeling's gonna change, because it's probably not. But like that type of thing, I feel like, and he said, he was the same one. He told us, he emailed us, he was like, nobody's gonna get less than a B based on how you've all performed. He said, I want this to be meaningful. I want to finish the semester out in a meaningful way, not just, you know, what you need to do. And I feel like I've heard like all my professors who I've really enjoyed are saying the same things. Like y'all have said that in the last couple minutes. And I think that's what's important. Like the ones who I'm enjoying the most are not abandoning the academics, but they're sort of adjusting in a way and emphasizing. Like I have another professor, every time he emails us, he's like, first and foremost, I hope you're all well. I want to emphasize that I'm worried about you as a person, not you in terms of this book. Like, tell me what you need, I'll make it happen. If you need, you know, don't let your schoolwork, don't let this one English 4800 like take you away from things that you truly need to do. And I think that's kind of it really makes me appreciate them like as people, I think.
The care ethic, which, you know, I mean, Glenn, you know how important it is to me. I know how important it is to you. Morgan, hopefully you saw that play out, you know, in our 9th grade literature classroom back in the day. But it's so central, and it doesn't matter what level it is, post-secondary, secondary, elementary, that ability to exhibit care for your students and your students to be able to receive that. I mean, it has the ability to both heal in the most tragic of situations, but it also just has the ability of like taking all that anxiety away that is easy to feel in the academic space, right? So I'm glad to hear your professors are doing that.
And I remember, I mean, there was a day in 9th grade, we had a presentation, I don't remember on what, but I had worked like so hard. It was a group thing, but like I felt like I had really done my part on the PowerPoint, and I just like woke up feeling so horrible. I came to school, I thought I was going to tough it out, and I came up to you like at the beginning of class, and I was like, I guess you were Mr. Jones. I was about to say Dr. Jones. Mr. Jones, like, I was like, I feel so bad, like I think I need to go home. And you told me, you were like, it's fine, like don't worry about it, like go to the clinic, call your mom, go home. Like you're not going to give a great presentation if like you don't feel like it. And that's been how many years? That's been like 5 years ago, and like and I still remember it. And I do think like, and that didn't take away from in any way like you caring about us as people, in no way took away from like you educating us and helping people grow. And I think this is kind of the whole pandemic situation is kind of exposing the teachers and professors who go about it in that way, and who are just kind of there to shove the information down your throat and say they did their job and be done.
Well, the one little follow-up that I kind of had as a question for you is we'd like to always kind of end or work towards things that are pretty positive that are going on through all of this. So what's been an interesting or maybe surprising positive for you since this all started? And this could be in any facet of your life that you're like, wow, that's actually pretty great.
I think I have learned to not have to go everywhere, even though, I mean, I don't tend to go places a lot, but I feel like this sort of finding a way to be productive in the home. I've started like embroidering. I started a little garden, like I'm growing some kale, stuff like that. And then the academic, I feel like it has made people, like my Iliad professor, he is making little like fun videos where he'll just like say what he would say at the beginning of lectures, and he'll come on and record it or whatever, and then he'll email us and he'll be like, hot new special, weekend edition, like stuff like that. So I think it has sort of I'm glad I still have people around me that can like completely recognize like the severity of what's going on, but take in the spaces where it's appropriate, like take the space to just like have a little fun.
Yeah.
It's huge.
It is huge.
That's cool.
It is huge.
That's cool.
Well, Morgan, thank you so much for joining us. If you don't mind, just hang around for us. We do one final piece to all of this, which is we call it our outro. And the outro is just a way, again, to share one other thing that is either positive or connected, again, to humanity and things that are going on. And this literally popped up yesterday. So one of our mutual friends and colleagues, me and Glenn's, had a student submit this really kind of powerful and relatively well-polished video that just talks about, both the ugly, but mostly the positive of how humanity's kind of had to rally together during the pandemic. So I wanted to share that video here real quick. So let me get that started for us.
And this is actually something this is a project, I believe it was submitted for, or will be submitted for the project that we talked about called the Quarantine Diaries.
Yep.
So very cool tie-in.
For the International High School Film Festival. Yep.
Yes.
All right.
Future children. If you're watching this, that means you may be learning about this time in history. The time when the entire world was shut down because of an uncontrollable virus and your future mother began losing her future mind. Anyway, as you read in your textbooks the causes and effects, death tolls and recoveries, vaccines and treatments, I want you to know the humans behind the headlines. Underneath the stock market and politicians are human beings who are not have jobs and lack the resources to financially support themselves and or their families for the weeks we're under quarantine. Family businesses that have run for years and now closed with no way of knowing if they'll ever reopen. Children are starving and mothers are struggling to find supplies to care for them. It's true what they say. Fear can bring out the worst in people. Grocery store aisles are cleared and someone is going to sleep tonight with an empty stomach and fridge. But with the dark days, not only comes fear, but love. People are going out of their way to buy essentials for those at high risk of getting the virus. Children are singing songs of love and companionship. Companies are donating to charities, and most of all, human beings are coming together to show they care for one another. As you're watching this, I'm in the midst of it all, and though it feels hopeless some days, I know it will pass. I know I will see my friends and family again. I know that times are hard for many people, and that I am privileged to live a life where I don't have to worry about money or where I'm going to sleep. Unfortunately, not everyone can relate to those circumstances. So if there's one thing I would like you to hold from this forever, it's to be good. Do not be greedy and do not be inconsiderate. Be kind, be patient, be there for everyone who needs it. Be there for yourself. And when the dark days come, be not of fear, but of love. XOXO. Mom.
So, pretty cool considering they had to do that with limited equipment, whatever they had at home, trying to put this together to submit to this festival. But festival or no festival, just a great piece of media to share, I think, with other youth, or with us, for that matter.
Trying. I've watched that like 4 times now, and I almost tear up like every time. It's it's deep. And I know that's too bad.
Great job with that soundtrack, right? We always take for granted how powerful music is behind the things that we watch in those visuals. Changes everything.
I know those students in the video. Like I know her friends. It's just really hard. But it's an important perspective. I hope that I hope students right now are capturing all of this, because this is history. This is completely history. So and it will get better, and that's the message. So good stuff.
Well, on that note, everybody, thank you for watching yet again. We're going to keep making these videos as long as you are willing to check them out and tune in with us. You can catch me online on Twitter at the Prof Jones.
And I'm at gchant668.
And Morgan, thank you again for joining us. Everybody stay safe out there and stay healthy.
Bye, y'all. Thank you.